The Star Wars Reporter podcast you are watching.
Hello, welcome to the Star Wars Reporter podcast, episode 95. And we're going to be reviewing Andor again, episode 4 and 5. It's getting good. It's getting good and exciting. So, and again, welcome. We review Star Wars, Disney, and everything else in the galaxy near and far. So, before we get started, I'll introduce you to one of the hosts, Trooper Todd.
Hello there, Wiki Steve. Thank you very much for inviting me to another exciting podcast to discuss Andor.
Andor, I love it. Yes, I've watched each of the episodes a couple times, and at the very end of the series, it's going to be like a marathon. We have to do kind of a crazy marathon.
I literally just finished watching episode 5 like 20 minutes ago, so it's all fresh in the mind. So I'm ready to break it down.
Awesome. And before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone likes and subscribes to the channel, share this video, and you know what? Take part in the live chat, and
Yes.
We will make sure to answer those questions. You can also follow us on our social media, which is, of course, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So
Yeah, actually, it's I don't know. We have many episodes before where we had live chats come in, and we always involve them into the conversation. You can put their chats on the screen. So yeah, I really recommend if you have something to say or some thoughts, let us know. We'd love to bring it up in the show and talk about it.
yes. And again, we like to answer all the comments. And to start off, before we get going, there was a comment today on our Facebook page on the announcement, and it was a comment. I'll just bring this up here. It's Wayne so-and-so, not the Wayne from this place, but and he made a comment about episode 4 and 5, and here's what he says here, if you're listening. I love how nothing actually happens in the episodes we watch, but always promises that next episode will be great, that we always
have something to
look forward to until the season finale, when we realize we wasted our time watching the most boring Star Wars show ever created. So cool. So he's being sarcastic there, obviously.
I think Wayne is being sarcastic, yes.
Yeah. And I wanted to start with that because I wanted to say that I've heard this a lot, and I get it. If I was especially a casual Star Wars fan, or just someone that liked sci-fi stuff, and I don't care if it's Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever, and I'm tuning in, I would probably find this really boring because I'm looking for pew pew, and I'm looking for the lightsabers and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. I'm looking for that. But as a fan who likes all the nuances, and I've said this before, how I would love a show about, that space transport guy, or the smuggler who goes from planet to planet, or the guy running the business, or like a cantina show. I would love that. I've gotten to where I'm kind of boring, and how I see this is kind of like a more drama type show, and I love picking out some of the Star Wars-y things in it, and I'm appreciating this kind of a story. But I can understand how people like Wayne and others might view this series so far.
Well, again, Wayne brings up an interesting point. Okay, he does. He's not wrong. There's been a lot of nothing happening, but as you're saying, Steve, I think one thing they're doing in this storyline is they're really building character development. There's just not it's not just Andor. There's
Mhm.
many characters they're introducing in the series that we don't know, right? We have the police officer, we have the female imperial person, we have her rival, we have Andor's girlfriend, we have like there's so many there's we have Skarsgård character, right? There's so many characters,
Mhm.
Mothma, right? Like there's so many different characters, they all have different storylines, and I think they're building everything like it's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It started with Iron Man, Captain America, Thor movie, slowly, and that's what they're doing here. So
Mhm.
let's look at this first episode, really slow. Second episode built up tension, but really nothing happened. Third episode, there's a little more pew pew pew, right? So
Yeah.
then we have episode 4, which just again worked with a lot of tension, introducing more characters. We have episode 5, which again elaborating those characters, right? So it looks like it might be a 3-story arc every time. So I think it's building up for next episode to be a little more pew pew going on, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's what they're looking at in the world of film and television. There's something called the rule of threes, and so when you do something, you do it by threes. So I think they're doing 3-episode arcs to build up sort of some kind of pew pew action sort of stuff. 'Cause I'm an action guy. Don't get me wrong. I don't
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
movies where I'm watching and nothing ever happens. Like Star Trek's a hard every episode of Star Trek's a slow burn, right?
Yeah.
You can watch a whole episode of Star Trek. What happened? I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Orville. If you've watched Seth MacFarlane's The Orville, again,
Right.
it's very good. And again, everything's really slow. The latest season, season 3, is just really over the top amazing. But again, it's very slow. But they work on character development, character structure, and it doesn't have to be all pew pew pew. And I think what's happening for me is I'm getting caught up in the characters. I'm getting caught up in the storyline. Like you're saying, Steve, it's something different from any other Star Wars story, like Rogue One was from any different Star Wars movie.
Yes.
It's building characters. It's building this underbelly world. It's building like it's nothing shiny, nothing's bright. It's like they're they're in the swamp, they're in the forest, they're drinking brown milk that they said it's good for the body, but it tastes like crap. And you know what I'm saying? Like it's not a glamorous world. And it's kind of neat when it shows when it goes to Coruscant how everything's shiny. Like Mothma's car's all shiny and glistening, and everything's beautiful. And it goes
Yeah.
to these people in the trenches where it's not beautiful. Like even
Yes.
that Imperial bunker is not beautiful. Even where the cop, what's his name, the police officer, you got
Syril.
Cyril. Sorry, thank you, Steve.
Syril. Yes.
Even where he goes, where he lives, it's not a glamorous place, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like you notice because that city's really tall. He went down the elevator. The lower you get, you're getting more into the grittier area, right? So
Right.
and so nosy neighbors, right? All those sort of things, right? So I like what they're doing. But I do understand what Wayne's saying. I think I don't know Wayne at all, but you know I
Mhm.
understand the slowness, but I am getting caught up in the story. I am getting caught up in the characters. Like I think there's some really strong characters I find really intriguing that I want to find out more about.
Right. Right.
That's my long
Okay.
rant. There you go. I broke down. That's my breakdown of Wayne's comment. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying it's just you have to open your mind and just be patient. And but I think they are doing a good job telling a story and getting engaged. I remember the first episode we talked about this last time. Like I was going, whew. Like hopefully the second episode's better. And I got
Right.
second episode. I was caught up in it. So yes,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
give it
good.
time. Let it breathe.
Well, let's get into episode 4. Let's talk about
Let's do it.
a little bit about that. We kind of open where we left off, where Andor and Luthen are going to what turns out to be this planet Aldani, and he's
That's your Tatooine, right?
yeah, it's
You
the
know, in
grass
Canada, everything
Tatooine.
in Canada, everything's near Toronto, right? So it must be near Tatooine, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's going to be hooking up with this group of people that they're going to be having. It's basically going to be a heist at this Imperial base on Aldani, and he introduced them to. I don't have a picture of her. I didn't get it. Darn. Of his contact, who I think I was telling you this offline, is going to be Luthen's daughter.
Well, you did admit that's your theory that she is his daughter. He was
Daughter.
very mysterious about who she was. You remember,
Yes.
Andor had to stay inside the ship. What's
Mhm.
your name? Your name is going to be what name did he come up with?
Clem. Came up with
Clem, right? So,
Clem.
give me a name, Clem. Okay, you're Clem. And but staying here, she's not going to be happy. And then and sure enough, she wasn't happy. But that kind of makes sense. That would fit their relationship sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? How
Mhm.
like because she was very accepting of him, right? Like, okay, she realized this is what's going to happen, and she said okay, right? You know what I'm saying? So I think
Yeah.
you're possibly right.
Yeah. So I think that's what's going on. So we have another talk with also in the ship with Luthen and Andor, basically like choose your side, one of those talks again,
Yeah, yeah.
and the whole typical thing. And Andor is going to basically be getting paid 200,000
Credits.
credits for kind of five days of work, right? And so yeah, so like you just said, instead of sand, we have the highlands of Aldani, which is all
Hmm.
grass, I guess, and flat. But
Not
um,
Andor, not Hoth. It's a totally different environment, right?
right, so you have all the different characters on the team, right? He gets introduced to. No one trusts Andor being brought in
Oh,
at
they're all
this late,
surprised and shocked, right? Like, how can you
right,
bring somebody in? We're 3 days away, and I can understand how that would be very it would put a rift through the group for sure, right? You bring in
right,
somebody new.
right. And this group, you know what? As a side note, they kind of remind me of the Matrix crew
Oh yes,
on the ship, the Nebuchadnezzar,
yeah,
where even the guy there with the hat you could see in the middle who ends up in the next episode
yes.
giving him that little device. He seems like that guy that's like
Mouse.
Mouse. Kind of seems like that.
I didn't see it at all until you mentioned it. Now I'm going, oh yeah, I definitely see that. Like it's that kind of ragtag, just military outfit who's just trying to scavenge and stay alive. That's what
Like
it
the guy
definitely
with the
looks like.
tattoos here on the
Yeah,
right hand side really
yeah.
doesn't trust him, doesn't like the whole thing. You got Mouse, you got well, I mean the blonde I gotta figure out her name. She is Morpheus, obviously, of this group and stuff. So
Is she
it's
Morpheus or Trinity?
well, because she's the leader, right? Morpheus was the leader of the
Okay,
ship.
yeah, yeah,
He was in
yeah,
charge of the ship. Um, but that guy reminded me of Mouse when I first saw that. I'm like, oh, okay, there's Mouse. He's the guy, or the guy in Fast and the Furious that fixes the car.
yeah. I've only seen one Fast and the Furious movie and I didn't like it, so I haven't watched any other ones. But but
Hey, hey,
the
family,
young guy.
Todd, family.
Sorry. The
Okay,
young
sorry.
guy is actually it was driving me nuts because I was like, I recognize this actor. Where's he from? And he's from the Netflix series End of the Effing World. If you haven't seen the series, it's really, really good. Yeah, he's a stellar actor from that series, and so I'm really into that character just because the actor I really like and appreciate his talent from the other Netflix series. So I'm kind of into that character. I like what he's doing, and he's very simple sort of thing, but he's very trusting character. He believes
Mhm.
that Andor's there too, or sorry, Clem's there too. Is that it
Yeah,
believes and is on their side, sort of thing, right? So yeah,
yeah. And then I guess their inside man is this officer that shows up and the
yes,
speeder bike, and it's cool. If you notice his armor, it's the same armor from Solo on that one planet where Solo hooks up with Woody Harrelson and them.
yes, that's
Uh,
right.
I think that's the best picture I got for that. But
That's right when
I
they're on the
really like that.
battlefield, right? And that's what,
Yeah,
yes. But I almost even when I see speeder bike, like especially nowadays, seeing the speeder bikes from Return of the Jedi was fantastic. But now you see it in 2022 and how good it looks when it comes in and it gets off. It's just kind of hovering there. Like the
yeah,
technology has changed so much. It just looks so good. I love speeder bikes. I love
yes,
stormtroopers. And when I
yeah,
see a guy come in on a speeder bike like that, it looks fantastic. Just again, the thing about the Star Wars series, they really do a good job. They always kind of let you know it's in the Star Wars universe, and it's just a nice little touch. I think is coming in on a speeder bike that the ones we're familiar with Return of the Jedi.
right, yeah, yeah. It's yeah, I they're like my favorite thing. I especially like the ones that are more of the laid back, like the swoop bikes. I love those.
Uh-huh.
So now I've noticed and I don't know if it was Adam that said it last time or it was you, but the episodes jump all over the place. It's like we're in all Downey, now we're here, now we're
Hmm.
there, now we're back in LA, now we're there,
Yeah,
now we're here, right? So it's kind of like when I'm taking notes, it's like back on, back on, back on. You know what I mean? It's like, by the end of it, because I write so much, you know what I think it is? I think I write big. so I run out of pages, and as I write, I press harder and harder. But so now we're getting all the perspectives, right? So we get the heist team, and then we go back to the I forget her name, the officer. Um, the Imperial officer lady there.
Yes, the
The
blondie.
blonde.
Yes, and her, she's having a little squabble with her fellow workers.
Yeah, because again, what we're seeing is the Imperial side where they're all kind of like at each other's throat. They're all trying to kind of gain the upper hands to get uh, um, preferential treatment and advancements and stuff,
Advancement
right?
of career. That's one thing I really. Well, you never see this, but they're really showing that side of things now. How they're all stepping on each other's toes to try to prove their worth, so they can move up in the rankings. I love
Yeah.
this scene. Well,
This scene here, so
yes,
like the big commander is trying to settle a squabble between the two officers, right? The guy on the right, that's his sector was Phoenix, and
yes.
she's trying to muscle in on there because of the box, right?
Yes, the stolen box that is from her district. Yes,
Right. So basically, the commander's like, "Nah, it's his. You just mind your own sectors and blah blah blah." So it's all this. It's not only them fighting against what's going to become the rebel, like the rebels, but it's also them fighting internally, right? Like trying to maneuver into promotions, and we see that again, I think, in the next episode in the beginning with officers, and they're all very superficial and selfish, right? It's like what
well,
Andor
that's
said, they're all fat and proud of themselves.
and that's exactly it. That's what I think is really showing so much of the fact that they're so proud of themselves and they're so into themselves. They don't see the bigger picture, and that's where of course they have strength in numbers,
Mhm.
but it's their downfall is the fact that they think they're so good, right? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So that's how the small little rebellion can beat this massive empire in Return of the Jedi and A New Hope, because they're just like they're fat, they're lazy, and they think that they're impenetrable.
right. And the one conversation that in this when they were on Coruscant, I really liked, is officer was talking about all the shipments going to Scarif,
Hmm.
and it's setting up security for that. It's because of the Death Star, right?
Yeah,
So I think that's pretty awesome. So it's just like a small thing that's dropped in there that, say, the casual Star Wars fan might not appreciate. It's like, why are they talking, you know, not, politics, but like administration stuff? And this is boring. Like the scene where all the officers were sitting around that table giving their reports. You know,
but,
it would
but
seem sort of boring to someone that's not interested in the stuff they're talking about.
I guess that if you don't know what they're talking about, I can see that for sure. But
Mhm.
things we know what they're talking about, and that's why I find it so intriguing. Because again, as I said earlier, it really shows something we've never seen before: the infighting, the squabbling, the fighting for to get on top of your competitor, right? Because they're all competing. They all want the better job. They all want, like, episode 5 showed a really good scene where the guys, one guy was trying to move up, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was talking with Mary. Remember they're looking at the building. You think this hotel would be a good office space or a good place to, you know what I'm saying? And the
Yeah,
officers,
this one right here.
yes, exactly, and he's
These
all
these
about,
two.
yeah, exactly, and the guy wearing black there, he's all about trying to improve himself, right? He says you want to get, I can't remember exactly the wording, but basically said you want to, impress people. Well, this is your opportunity to do
Yeah, I
so.
think he said something like set up a command center in this. They're basically going to kick people out of this building that live
Exactly.
there to set up kind of
What it's a hotel.
headquarters.
I think it
Is
says a
right,
hotel or a resting. So basically, they're going to destroy that business. They don't, because again,
yeah,
they don't
they
care about
don't
the
care.
people. They don't care about what you have to do to survive. They don't care if they live or die. Just, you're out. We're taking this into our. This is going to be our command center hub, right? So
And I think that's what the guy that's going to be in charge of it says. Do you mind if I'm called a prefect or something like
yeah,
this?
that's what it was. That's what it was. Yes,
He's like,
he wants a
whatever, I
higher
don't
ranking.
care.
Yeah, and I don't care. Yeah, he wants a higher ranking. And that's what I think. Everybody's out to try to benefit themselves, right? And
Right.
that's what's kind of.
And I think that was the story too with if I'm getting this right from like the expanded universe, where it's like when Darth Vader was introduced in A New Hope, like in that area, right? And all the officers are like, all maneuvering and sucking up the Tarkin. And then there's this Darth Vader guy that comes out of nowhere. That's why they were acting so snotty to him in that meeting. And then he ends up choking the one guy
Yeah.
because they don't know who he is. They're like, who is this guy? He's got all this preferential treatment with the Emperor that they're all trying to get by. They don't realize who he is or his background or the connection between him and the Emperor or Tarkin. And Darth Vader didn't respect any of them because he thought they were scum. He did respect Tarkin. That's why he kind of took orders or did work for him, because he thought he was an equal. So this is why Darth Vader comes out of nowhere, and then once he starts choking people, they're like, okay, we get what's going on here.
Well, even like which we didn't see, but I'm pretty sure the Emperor said to Vader, you are supporting this guy. What if he says,
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So if Emperor says that, he will do that, right? So he'll fall in line, he'll follow his lead, sort of thing, right? But again, like you're saying, no one knows who he is. Therefore, little maneuver. Everyone's like, whoa, you know what? I'm not gonna question this Darth Vader guy. He seems like he means business, right? So
just
like
need to choke me once. Just need to choke me once.
just choke me once, yeah. You get the idea that everybody else kind of follows. One thing the Empire is really good at is fear and intimidation, right? They rule with an iron fist. They scare the tactic. It's all scare tactic. It's bullyism, right, at its finest. And so again, that's what you see. That's what I love about this series. What they're doing really well is the fact that they're trying to, the Empire is starting to put their foot down and just showing they're not great people.
Yeah. Now let's jump to where it starts becoming my favorite parts of the show. So we get back over to Morlana after the aftermath of Syril and the sergeants mess up in the streets, and the Empire has to come in, and we see sad face Syril.
Oh,
they're getting reprimanded by that Imperial, right? That the blonde was trying to fight this territory from.
Yeah.
And basically they all get relieved. They get fired. And so
what a great scene. But again, this is what I talked about. Remember, I said that this is what's going to happen. This is the point where the Empire is going to come in and wipe and just take over. And that's what's happened now, right? So not that I'm I'm sure everybody else might have thought that too, but I love that scene. Just how he said, you guys are nothing, you're useless, and you obviously you're incompetent. We're moving in, we're taking charge of everything. Everything with this, that their superior commanders said would happen is happening. They lost all control, lost all power. Their planet is no longer theirs.
Yeah. And so in that scene, it was a little comical thing where the sergeant has a question. And he does this. I thought that was funny. And so here's I wrote down my real world moment that I had to write down. Mm-hmm. So the Imperial commander, in the white suit.
Yeah.
He goes, seriously? That right there is the same as saying okay in a fantasy, or you know what I mean? Like it seemed like a real world. Like it was something that it was like he couldn't believe that he was actually going to do that, where he should have just given him a look or said something else. But it seems like a teenage girl, our world, seriously. And I just wrote it down. I'm like, because I want to pull out the real world stuff, like the AK-47 and stuff. I just thought it's funny. It doesn't ruin the show. It's just
I didn't pick up on that. I see when you're saying that again. I do pick up that. I'm gonna try and watch for these real world things more often now. I'll try and pick this up too. I didn't notice that, but yeah, you are right. That did seem very teenage daughter kind of thing. Seriously, Dad? Seriously, yeah.
So then the aftermath, we get to see Coruscant. When I saw this pop up, I'm like, oh, this is cool. We get to see how it's going with the Empire in charge. But what we're doing is we're following. There's sad Syril coming off. He's going home. I thought this was really good. It was just him walking with his luggage because he's fired, going through these hallways. And you know what's really cool? I wish I had the picture here. Someone found this is actually a car museum, a racing museum.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And same with, I forget what building this is. So I thought it was entirely a stage set and CGI, but it's real hallways. So here he is walking down the hallway. This is real hallway of somewhere. So that's kind of cool. It's practical. And Cyril ends going home to mom.
Well, what I love is just like even how he got there. Like he had to take an elevator and he was going down and down. Like it
Yeah,
showed the city how nice and light it was. And as he went down more and more and more, the more gloomier it got, the darker it got, more shadows
just
got.
like where
Right.
he is. Yeah, like look
Exactly,
at
right,
that.
because that's where he's from, right? And so his and of course when he opens the door and his mom sees him, did she give him a kiss? I can't remember what she do. I can't remember what she did. Steve, what did she
She
do?
smacked
She
him.
smacked him across the face. You know why? She's embarrassed because I think that was her advancement in life. Like that, like my son's up there. My son's one of the guard
Yeah,
sort of thing. And then all of a sudden, oh, he's nothing now. It's like,
he's nothing.
how dare you embarrass me?
And then
Remember,
she hugs him. It was
yeah, then
such a
she hugs
weird
him. It was,
relationship.
yeah. It's well, it's definitely, I'm embarrassed, but welcome home. It wasn't there a neighbor watching too, and she said, "Go away," sort of thing. There's a neighbor
Across the
watching.
hallway. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, nosy neighbor, get out of here. Like obviously, like, oh, that poor mom, they're her failure son, sort of thing, right? So, yeah, I liked. But again, that's what I tried to say before we're talking about Wayne. Like it's showing. Yeah, it's just it may look like a 2-minute scene where he's just going home. It's like, why is it taking so long? But it's showing you a fall from grace,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Visually, it's a visual telling of a story that he's going down, and what's the final destination? I'm back living with. I'm a grown adult, and I'm back living with my mom. And my mom might not be impressed with me because she slapped me across the face,
I find that so
right?
funny. I
Because
find
remember,
that
he was
so
so proud. His suit is modified, and he was so proud. Now he's nothing.
yeah. I know. It's it was sad and funny all at the same time for me because that slap came out of nowhere. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
And then she hugs him. I'm like, okay, this lady is off her rocker.
and I think what made it so great because he's tall, rugged,
Yeah.
he's in good shape. She's the smallest little person, right? And she just looks up at him. She's like almost jumping up to slap him in the face. I just like that kind of depiction of the again. That's why he's one of my favorite characters right now. Just
Right.
that because he's to me is the one that's going through the biggest story arcs and just
Yes.
limited
That's
4
what we
episodes.
that's what we that's what we posted on the Instagram. Said believe that Cyril's gonna have the most compelling story arc and transformation in the series.
Yeah, I don't
Definitely.
know where it's gonna go because we haven't even got to episode 5 yet because there's more stuff that comes on him later on. So
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that because I'm 6'3" and my mom is 5 feet tall even.
yeah,
So
she's teeny weeny. Yeah, I remember
yeah,
her
very,
being
very
so small.
tiny. So I always think that's really funny. And that's what people would always say, that's your son or that's your mom. I'm like, eh. I was smaller at one point, right?
At
Like
one point,
we
yeah,
all
yeah,
are. So the other really interesting thing is so you you have the in one of the scenes, right? So when Luthen drops off Andor for that whole mess, he's got to go back to his fake life, as it turns out. So he also goes back to Coruscant, and there's a really interesting scene that starts here where he's transforming, right? So here he is,
yes.
and it was just so cool where he starts putting on rings and a wig, and in the end, he's like, and then he's practicing,
I
where he's
know.
kind of like, oh,
Like he was a totally different person in that gear, right? He did the whole thing, the whole smile, then he kind of walks away like he's warming up his performance, right? Because I thought it was a really good setup for what's to come.
yeah, right. And then we see, so what he is he's a like an antique
Antique
dealer
dealer
in Coruscant.
specialized in stuff that that's found or from wars or from civilizations from other civil galaxies or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, and there's some really interesting things here. So what we have is we have Mothma that comes in her nice fancy limo to come
with a new driver.
to his shop with the new driver, right? That she thinks is a spy, right? So again, it's the whole scene where his demeanor, he's like, in all the other episodes we see him, he's like gruff
Yeah,
and mean, and now he's like, oh, let me blah 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 and help you,
just over
and
the top, kind of like, yo, hey, welcome. Yeah, just a different society, a different class of person, right? There's a totally different character from before. But again, you're playing up because again, I love the fact that his assistant goes, oh, she has a new driver. Like, okay, well, we have to really put it on a good show to fool him, right? So that again
right.
just shows like there's so much going on in
Mhm.
this area and how dangerous things are because no one can be trusted, right? 'Cause
Right,
what they're
exactly.
doing what they're doing is so secret and can get in so much trouble. They just have to do everything they possibly can to make it look like they're straight up.
This
Uh,
reminds me again of all those World War II movies, right? Where the Allies, the spies are trying to do stuff behind the scenes, and you have those pesky, Nazis walking around, and they have to be like, oh, pretend they're looking at something. And that's what they do. They go into another room, and his assistant distracts the driver because he might be listening and stuff like that. And her life is really like, well, if you look at it, right, when we see her, she's living this beautiful, rich life, right? You saw her in the limo and stuff, but she's married to this douche.
yes,
She's married to this douche, and
he's a jerk.
it's a terrible, terrible marriage, right? He's planned this dinner party. She looks at the seating and the people, and she's like half of these people don't like me. Like she deals with them in the Senate, and
Yeah.
he doesn't care, and he doesn't care about all the stuff she's doing. She's like a bleeding heart for this and that, and it's very awkward. I felt it awkward when they're in scenes together, as in like the acting's good and everything. It's just that it's like, ugh, what a
Well, no,
terrible marriage.
it was. That's exactly. But the thing is, they're doing such a good job
Yeah.
displaying the fact that this is a terrible situation. She's obviously evolved from who she was when she first met the guy, right? Obviously, like she's not the same person she was when they got married. 'Cause they totally have different, or he's changed, one or the other, right? One of them's changed so dramatically, and yeah, that was a really good scene. This is to show that they're not happy.
Mhm.
She's not happy. They're not talking to each other. They're not in sync with each other. And yeah, the first thing I said to myself after I seen that scene, what a dick, because he's an awful, awful guy.
It's funny.
He
Oh,
doesn't care.
I forgot to show this one picture back in Luthen's shop that everyone was going nuts over. Is
Oh
this
yeah,
scene with the items, right? Like the Star Killer armor, and it's like all the different armor, the Mando armor. So all the Easter eggs here you have in the background that he's selling, right? So I find it funny, right? Because I've watched some people go on about the show, and it's like it's boring, it's dumb, it's stupid. This scene comes in one episode for like 10 seconds, and
can you
it's
go
like,
back? Can you go back to that photo again, Steve's right? I don't mean to interrupt you, but that little T-shaped thing, is that the same thing that Hera has, like from the Rebels? They had this told the history of her family.
uh,
They're called Telix, right? Telix. There's a little T-shaped,
Twi'leks, yes.
Twi'lek, sorry, on the right side. It's a little T-shaped thing.
Oh, I think so. I had a list. I forgot to bring the list, and there was someone that actually circled it all and told what they were.
Okay.
But it's like a ton of Easter eggs here. Um, but like I said, some people are like, "Oh, it's all dumb. 10 seconds changed around. It's the greatest." You know what I mean? And I think it's so funny with Star Wars fans, right? You know that meme with Leonardo DiCaprio where he's sitting and he's like, "Oh," and he's looking,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah,
like
that
that
one, yeah.
one thing. I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of Star Wars fans in a nutshell. It's like you could have nothing going on, and then they have someone that looks like R2D2 go by. People are like, "Oh my god, best thing ever!" And then there's like hundreds of videos for like 10 minutes a piece on the one scene of R2D2 rolling by. I think that's funny.
Well, that's what they're doing that with Star Wars. They're doing that with all the Marvel movies. Like I know I'm watching, going, oh. Like, they're always doing something, whether they say a name or they say a little phrase or they say they look like I'm going, oh. Like that's what I do all the time. Now that drives me nuts because I find it very exciting when they mention something that you clicked and get attached to. And I think that's what they're doing the exact same thing in Star Wars, which I find really appeals to the fans, or it just gets the fans excited when they can see something they understand or relate to. Or it's like you're watching Predator 2, and when they at the end of Predator 2, the big the Danny Glover goes in the spaceship and it showed the alien skulls and it showed, like, you know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it connects the universes, sort of thing, right? So of course stuff like that is very, very exciting.
Yeah. I know. I just like pointing that out because, like I said, the people that I've watched or even talked to, and they're like blah blah until that scene, then they were all in. Um, it's kind of funny. So, but like I said, the episode was back and forth with the training and stuff, right? So you have him here, and they're telling what the plan is, and he starts actually Andor starts actually talking, speaking, and telling what he thinks, and they're starting to realize that he knows stuff, right? Like they want him to pilot, and there was some technical jargon that they were talking about where they didn't know about. He's laughing at them like, "You didn't know about this thing?" Something to do with the clamping,
Yeah.
clamps to the tracks, and they would have been screwed if they didn't know about it, right? It was some kind of lever that you need to pull or something, and
That was episode 5. That came out in episode 5. Yeah, that's right.
oh, was
That's
that
right.
five?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
I
was
got it
episode
down
5.
wrong
They're
with
talking
them.
about that. Yeah. Well, it's sorry because both episodes are you're getting to know the characters. They're going over the plans and both episodes, right? So but yeah, that was episode 5. But they're talking about the fact that he's going. Andor's like, this is a suicide mission. Like,
Yeah,
like and then they talk about how this little fountain thing does a little light show, I guess, once every is it 3 years?
it's
And
every
so
3 years.
every 3 years, right? So that's they're planning. He was like, oh, okay, this actually sounds like that'd be a good cover to help get away. So he'll take all the air strikes away, right? So then he's like, okay, well, this sounds like a plan I'm in, sort of thing. And I like the fact that the kid, I talked about the kid, the younger man, like he really seemed to have faith in Andor, and he's the
Right,
one like I think his speaking up for his thoughts on Andor really I think helped settle everybody down to accept him into their little squadron sort of thing.
right. Um, you know what? I really want to jump into
Let's do it.
episode 5.
We're,
I want to jump
we're,
into it.
we're already 36 minutes into it. I have to go at 7 o'clock, so let's go.
Okay, okay. So
So
episode
much to talk about,
5.
though. So much to talk about, Steve. But again, there was not much happening in episode 4. Nothing, no pew pew. But again, a lot of
Yes,
tension building up, character development. Mothra's, husband. Like we're doing so much character development, but it was quite tense, right? You bring Andor in, the Imperial guy comes in the speeder bike. There was so much tension in that episode. The cop goes home, whatever his name is. His mom slaps him. Lots of
Syril, yeah.
tension, which set up episode 5, which is a
5.
lot
So
of
we start off with
pew pew.
potentially my favorite best character in the show,
Yes,
sad Cyril, sitting on his bed.
he just looks. Doesn't he look broken?
He's broken. He's back at home. Now, here's where I'm going to get crazy with my theories as we go
Okay.
on. So he's sitting there and he's kind of looking out the window, looking at these little
Look
teary.
at his eyes, eh?
I know he's looking out at the sun. Now, hear me out. Where I think that his arc, we've said this already before, that he's going to have the most transformative arc some way, good
Agreed.
or bad. So I just remember another sad guy looking out at the sun, wondering about his future.
Dude, shut up. Shut
Do,
up.
do, do,
Shut
do, do,
Okay, I didn't see that all till you. Dude, come on. Okay. That's a stretch. It's a stretch.
What I'm saying, he's not going to be Luke Skywalker. He's not going to be a Jedi. He's not going to be any of that. But what they're showing is right because right before this, Luke's uncle's like, "Nah, I need you here. You can't go off and join the academy." And he's like, I guess I'm not going anywhere. And then
Yes.
he runs outside and he's looking about his future. Well, Syril just got slapped the night before by his mom. He's
Yep.
at home in his childhood room,
Yep.
living at home with mom.
Yep.
He should be successful.
Uh-huh.
And he's been probably sitting there all night. The sun comes up and he's contemplating his future.
Yes. That
It
is
is
dude, I'm impressed. Did you get that from somewhere or did you come with that all on your own?
all on my own. When I was watching it
Okay.
at the end of the episode, I was like, when I was thinking about his character and his character arc and what are they doing with him, and I was just like, wait a minute. I go back and I'm like, because it's all those little, like we were talking about, all the cookies, all the Easter eggs, all the little things they put in there to make you go, oh, just like what Yoda did. Oh, just like what Han Solo did, but not exactly what he did. I just think that they're either giving a hint or this is just coincidental. Like that he's not going to be this douche that he is.
Dude, you know what? It's like a conversation that happened later on in the episode between the Imperial, the Blondie, and her assistant. I think that I think they did that on purpose. It wasn't coincidence. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see it all, but I could so see it now. I
And let's see. So he's having breakfast just like Luke did
yeah,
with
and
his
this is
blue
milk.
milk.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong, dude. Like this is so like this is like one of
I don't know.
the biggest detective skills sets I've seen in a long, long time, Steve. Like this is like you catching the Zodiac killer or something, man. This is huge. Like that.
Cyril Karn, mark my words. If I'm wrong, no one's watching this anyways. But mark my words, he is going to have the transformative arc that's going to be the hero and or failed villain at the end.
No, you're not wrong. See, I think you look at his skill sets, what he brings to the table. I think him and Blondie are going to connect up somehow because I think what he brings that skill set of investigating because he figured all this Andor thing out. I think that he's gonna get recognized by her and bring
Right.
her on the team, bring him on the team. I think that that's what my prediction is. I think he's gonna be a big bad guy. But I do agree with you. I think there might be some redemption story arc for the positive in the end, some sacrificing or whatever it might be. But yeah, they're setting him up. If he just disappears after episode, say 6, then they did a terrible job of building this character up because right now he's the one that has the most character dynamic shift than all other characters
Well,
so
we were
far.
talking about this before we went live, and it's
Episode 3,
like,
yeah.
okay, so if we're looking at the other two main characters everyone's oohing and awing about, right? It's Andor and Mothma. Well, we know where they end up, right? We know
Yes.
what happens to Andor, who he is, how he ends up. We know who Mothma is. We know who she is, how she ends up. And so it's just a matter of getting there, right? And they're doing interesting things with that. But now we have this really, you know, this character that's conflicted in so many ways, most of which seems to be his own fault
Hmm.
in things. He does have gifts or abilities, like you were saying. It's just that he's trying to be some things that he's not, or at least not right now, right?
Hmm.
So he tried to be that strong commander, and he, on the drop ship going down to Phoenix, and it's like hilarious scene, right? He was so weak, and when Andor had the gun back of his head, and he's like crying, giving out, oh, there's 14 of us, 12 and 2 officers or something, like instantly. But I think it's just like he's just never had that good life. And you see that with the dynamic where he's talking with his mom at the table, and she's
Yeah.
like, Uncle Harlow can get you a job. And like, look at this strain.
I know and she's just talking nonstop. She just talks nonstop, right?
Yeah.
Like it reminds me of a Seinfeld episode. That's George Costanza, and that's his mom bickering at him,
Yes.
right? And it's like,
Yes.
George, why didn't you do this? When George had to live at home. It's exactly what it seems like, except it's not as
Wow.
funny. But there, I made a connection too, Steve. Maybe not as
George Costanza.
maybe it's not as spectacular as yours,
You
but
might be more right, but who knows?
but that's what it feels like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
That is
very,
true.
very similar. Like he's stuck at home. He doesn't want to be there. He's embarrassed, and just his mom's trying to help, but his mom's not helping. He has dreams. He has aspirations, and that's why I know we're gonna jump ahead to the end where he brings up this holocron, and what does he have? What's on the holocron? It's that picture of Andor, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
what's he thinking? Now he's like, oh, I don't think he's going to go. You know what? I see the error in my ways. I'm going to go help him out. No, I don't think that's the case right
I think
now.
he's blaming Andor
He's
for
blaming
his
Andor. This
failure.
is all because of you. I think it's a plan of revenge. So that's why I can see, and what's happening right now, Empire's taking over. I, I see that. I really see him teaming up with Blondie, the Imperial Blondie. And I sorry, I don't know her name, but
Yeah.
I can see them getting together and using his skills. But again, he'll just be a sheep. He'll just be, she'll use him to advance
Mhm.
her cause and her will. And he'll just be
Yeah.
I think I think there'll be some kind of arc for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's got big things coming up in the series for sure, good or bad.
Right. So in the theme of the show of jumping all over the place, we kind of go back to uh, Andor, and they have one of the scenes where they're all um, I think another planning scene, right? Where they're all talking about the plan, and then I think he goes out and he's talking, he talking a little bit with the different characters in this heist crew, and I just don't. I think I said this to you before. Of all the training scenes and the getting together, there's no real getting to know anyone in the crew, so I'm kind of like oblivious to what they're doing. I'm like, basically, I'm just like, okay, let's just get to the heist because they're not really going deep on anyone
No,
per se.
well, there's so many different characters that we know a little bit about everybody. Like there was one little scene where Andor wakes up in the morning, his all his stuff's gone, and so
Right,
he sees a tattoo guy out there looking through all his crap, right? So there's that little scene. Then he does a little brief explanation of all the characters, a little bit more
right.
in depth, right, sort of thing. So again, we don't need to know everybody. The younger guy, we know a little bit more about him. He's trusting. We know
He's
more
very
about
idealistic, right? He's got like a manifesto. He's very, very fanatical at the whole down with the Empire thing.
down with the
Very
Empire,
fanatical.
and that's what his purpose is in life. He's young, he's idealistic, and that's what he believes, and so therefore he's devoted his life to this cause,
And he
right?
ends up
So
showing he's like the gear guy or something. He ends up giving it's a navigation tool
yeah,
to Andor to have a look at. And the instant I saw this, I went, I know what this is. I know
yes,
exactly what this is. That's a Polaroid
the Polaroid
that
camera has
they
been modified. Yes,
modified.
absolutely.
And I think it will probably see it go flat. I don't think we saw it open or close, but that's
No,
exactly what it is. And I know that Steven Stanton on, I think I told you this, I think it was on his Twitter, had made a connection and actually showed his own Polaroid like this. And
yeah,
I thought it was kind of funny. But speaking of the tattoo guy that was going through Andor's stuff, it's really interesting. So they're pointing out stuff. So the one tattoo, the chest tattoo is crate head, and Andor knew what it was. He's like, "Oh, you notice this? You know what it is?" And it's crate head. And he goes, "What about this on his arm?" And that is by the hand. That's what it means. And I think they're They're prison tats is what they are.
yes, or some
So
like the tattoos from the Germany sort of thing. That they did to all the Jews sort of thing. Maybe is that kind of thing too? Maybe
right,
or prison tattoos.
yeah. Because I think then Andor goes on about how he knows like he was put in kind of a juvenile facility and blah 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 for time to time. Uh, so this guy is not trusting for many reasons. I just thought it was really interesting. They're doing a lot of the, just like this kind of stuff. I thought was interesting. So
Are we allowed to show nipples on our podcast?
I was, what I was gonna do. I forgot I was gonna
You're gonna
Photoshop.
censor it?
I was gonna Photoshop a little heart over it or something, or like a star, something, or tassels, one or the other. I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, but I forgot about it. So no one's watching this anyway. So
I am.
so they're doing like again all the training and stuff like this, and little by little, Andor in the scenes when they're doing planning or training, he kind of gives them tidbits of what they're doing wrong. It's kind of showing that he knows what he's talking about, and he does have experience conning the Empire. Right? We found that out last episode.
Yeah, what I liked about this when they tell you not to march, and they showed that they actually went to the planet where all the Imperials are moving in, and they show the four of the squadrons, those officers marching. Then it goes to the main character, how they're going to take over this hotel, right? And
Mhm.
then they went back to show them practicing the march. I thought it was a really good segue from one sequence to the other sequence. It was quite neat.
Right,
And then of course, Andor's giving some tips, like not questioning things, but saying you should be on the right side. He goes, you guys should switch
right.
sides. Why? Well, you're left-handed, right-handed, and these are the reasons why. And they're like who's this guy who's like kind of questioning us, sort of thing, right? But yeah, and he
And
brings
yeah,
interesting. Go
and
ahead.
the thing that they do in the episodes where they're like, okay, they're doing these things. Now we're going to throw you some Star Wars stuff, right? So while they're training and doing all this kind of stuff, there's this TIE fighter coming up, and I thought, oh, that's pretty interesting. And he totally buzzes them
I know, right?
so
Like a Top
low.
Gun, right? Just a little flyby sort of thing.
You know,
I
what
thought
a
that
say it, say it.
Oh, what a dick. Yeah, absolutely, right? But again, it just shows the Empire. He saw him, was, oh, watch it. I saw them. Watch this. I'm going to make their day. And went down and just blew their ears off, right? Just didn't have to do that. It was so unnecessary. But I can do it. You know why? I'm the Imperial. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm just
Yeah,
showing you I'm in charge. You're nothing. I'm the king. You're the peasant. And but how good that looked. I mean, the water. Again, I'm a big, huge FX fan sort of thing. When that thing went over the water and the water ripples and then the
it's
spray
so
comes
cool.
off, looks so good.
We were saying that same dick pilot is dancing across the water. He's so proud of himself
Yeah, I'm
flying
going back
his
to the
little
base.
TIE
Look at
fighter.
me. I'm so cool. Yeah. Woo.
No
Yeah,
one
because
can shoot me down.
yeah, no one will shoot me down. I'm the best pilot in the world. Hasn't seen a bit of action anywhere, right? He just thinks he's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I
Um,
just thought that's funny afterwards how they did that. But um, and again, they're kind of going through all the characters. There's a lot of people going on, right? So their contact guy, you have scenes of him going around, kind of setting up this plan, like he's doing his job, acting like he should. But I just thought it was really interesting, the intrigue of him trying to plan out to make it so it's easy for Andor and the crew to break in. And sorry, here's my modern day picture. Gun on the wall, kind of looks like an Our World gun, but whatever. And they just had some really nice shots. So I guess this is what Andor is going to be stealing right here.
yes, that's my guess too, because it's attached to the cable, right?
Right.
What I loved about the scene was really good. Like how he's doing his job,
Mhm.
but he's setting things up but he's not telling them anything. Like the officer asking, oh, you know what, we would like, it'd be a shame that we're all here, if the people couldn't see this light show that's going to happen. Is it okay if we can all be up there on deck and have minimal crew supervising, right? Like,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
like, wasn't his idea, right? So he's building the perfect alibi, right? Like, this is not my, like, he's just agreeing with other people said, right? So he has an alibi sort of thing, which is kind of neat. The fact that he's orchestrating this whole entire thing, setting it up so that it's gonna be the biggest success as possible, because there's gonna be minimal staff on duty guarding whatever the insides are.
Mhm. Um, yeah. So with the officers on Fenix, right? Or sorry, Ferrix, um, their whole cleanup thing. I think we were talking about this offline as well, about kind of how the officers are all just kind of out for themselves and they're trying to get promotions, maneuver. And this officer in the black suit is like, um, he wants to be called a prefect instead of whatever
Yeah, whatever the
his
title is.
rank is
Yeah,
going to be.
yeah.
And I think, like you were saying, there's just no care. They're going to like evict an entire hotel. They don't care about people's lives. And again, they're just showing kind of the cruelty and the entitlement of the empire at
Hmm.
every turn. Even with, we see this officer again, and she sees this guy walking by, and it's like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna get him. And you see how fanatical she is with that subordinate of hers, where they're trying to research stuff about it. And did you notice at the end when they're going to do some more work and she takes a pill?
Yeah, I did notice that. Yes.
Because she's probably like taking stuff to keep her going, like drugs to just go, and it's gonna doom her. But I think her family must have something strong as well, because in a previous episode that commander said something like, just her background, or someone she knows, like she's got a lot to live up to.
Yeah, no, exactly, right? She's got a lot on the line.
Yes.
She's got a safe face. She's got to put on a good show because of where her lineage sort of thing. It seems like, right? But again, I
Right.
love that scene with her and her little assistant, right? Like they're trying to track down that rebel activity, right? And
Mhm.
like big one, this is random attacks, and she's like, well, yeah, but you don't think it's random. You think this. Well, if I was going to be doing this is exactly what I do. I wouldn't keep jumping over the same fence. And I thought it was a really good line. It sets up the fact that she's onto something and she's not wrong. Again,
Right.
this whole attack that they're planning with Andor down there is another random attack. It's not expected.
Mhm.
It's random. It's not anywhere coordinated with everything else going on. It's all over the map. So it's going to seem like a one-of thing, which is not going to be. Again, they don't. Again, but she's piecing it together, which is going to give her some clout, I think, to help move up the ranks.
Right. And I think that in a future episode, I think when this heist works, and my theory too is the two girls in the heist group that aren't joining them on the heist part of it. I think not only is the plan to steal all this stuff from the Empire, but I think they're going to try to blow up that base, and it's probably a suicide mission, and that's why they're acting like they are. But um um yeah, I think it's going to be after that happens, and then this guy gets in trouble for it. I think
Hmm.
she's going to take over, and that's where we see in the trailer where she comes out of the ship. There's all these stormtroopers coming in and the
Yeah.
riots and stuff. That's what's going to happen. They're cracking down, and it's when she's going to get kind of command of his section
So
as
I think,
as well.
I think what's going to happen is the shameful police officer, whatever his name is. Sorry, you have to help me
Syril.
out, Steve. Cyril. I think he's going to somehow link it to Andor, and so he'll come in with some information about Andor for her, and that's what's going to move him up the ranks too, right?
It's
Like,
going to pull him back in.
there's gonna be some kind of maybe surveillance footage or something. They'll have some kind of thing where it's gonna show Andor's face, and then he'll know who that is, and I think that's how he's gonna get in on the Empire, and then yeah. But I'm pretty sure episode 6 is gonna be a little more pew pew.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
got to
sure.
be getting there, right? So,
Well,
I
how
mean,
can not? They're sleeping outside. It's next day.
yeah,
Boom. This time tomorrow. I don't think they're gonna have the whole entire night in one episode. Unless they're gonna do a flashback episode or go back in time or show, but I don't think that would be. I think that would make people upset.
I know.
No, they have to
and
do it.
and this is the scene that you're talking about right at the end, right when they're doing the
Yes.
montage out. So this is him looking at it. He's probably like blaming Andor for all this kind of stuff and how he's going to get back in. But I find funny before we got to there, and he turns on the hologram. Look at his dresser.
Yeah. Yeah. Action figures is like us.
Yes, but
Is
it's
that a
just
stormtrooper? It's hard to tell, but
I think that might be a stormtrooper, but it's just kind of funny, right? When I first saw that, I'm like, oh look, he's back in his childhood bedroom, and there's his toys that he had up on the. But it could be that's his whole goal, right? To impress the Empire because of the stormtroopers and whatever. I wonder if those are cloned. But
he'll be a clone trooper because
yeah, I just thought it was interesting. And this other Easter egg, the Jedi holocron and the Sith holocron, and see the square and the triangle.
oh,
I
I
wonder if
I
that's what that
did see
is.
that. I definitely see it now. I didn't see it earlier, but I definitely see it now.
Yeah. So like,
A lot of time I was looking at the character. A lot of times I just look at the characters. I don't look behind, but I should look at that. I definitely see it now for sure, though.
yeah, I just kind of
So,
lazily look.
but I loved how the episode ended, right? Like they're sitting down talking, but the whole thing, he's listening to the radio, see if there's any kind of communication. She's like, there will be no communication. You
Right.
need to get ready for tomorrow. You have visitors tomorrow, right? Or customers tomorrow.
He's
I
got to
was like, yeah,
pretend like there's nothing
yeah,
going on.
exactly, right. Okay. And she said, and by this time tomorrow, it'll all be over. And he says, or
Yeah.
just beginning.
Just beginning. Yeah, that was a nice ending. And just really quick, we talked about this too with
Oh
Mothma's
yes,
family, right? The daughter, she's got a daughter, and she's like the Mothma's the do-gooder, and I think the husband and the daughter are done with her. They love the Empire. They're rich and wealthy, and it benefits them, and they don't care.
yeah,
And they're tired of her always working to help people, and I think it's put a strain on both their relationships. They say really crappy things to her, and she ends up leaving. Like they she planned a day with her daughter doing something, and it was very sad and mean.
Well, obviously, Mothra. She wanted her daughter to come. She's going to do something that's helpful to people. She doesn't want to have any part of it, right? Like I
Yeah,
don't care. I don't care in your cause. You're just trying to, like you're saying. Yes, I think they don't care about anything. When they're happy with their life.
yeah.
They're willing to turn a blind eye. Like they're not suffering. They have everything
Mhm,
they possibly want and need. They have clout. They have they're hobnobbing with very important people, right? So
mhm.
why should we change anything? Why do we have to help anybody?
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
it was a great ending. Great ending.
And hopefully, if anybody's watching this, we're actually setting up the fact that hey, this is not it's a slow burn. Yes, it's not pew pew pew. There's not tons of action, but there's lots happening when there's nothing happening. When we talked about the
Right.
first episode, right, where there's lots happening,
Right.
just it's not action oriented.
It's just kind of like in the title of the podcast, right? The drama of Andor. And I think it's kind of like almost, it's not, I'm not gonna say soap opera, but it's kind of a dramatic series that has Star Wars in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the flip from, I love The Mandalorian, right? So it's Star Wars action story. Same with the other two series, right? Boba Fett, Obi-Wan. And this one's kind of flipped it, where it's drama with Star Wars in it, but with familiar characters and some unfamiliar characters. And again, a couple of those characters are awesome. Syril, I found the sergeant funny because he was so crazy fanatical, but there's some good potential there, right? And not knowing, like we're discussing Cyril's character, is going to be good, bad, is going to be both. And again, it's that story of the collaborator story, right? With him from like World War II or something. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up.
Well, my favorite thing from the podcast tonight is definitely your connecting Syril with Luke Skywalker. That was quite phenomenal. It's like I'm impressed, Steve. I feel bad as a filmmaker myself that I didn't put those shots together, because that was a well done. Well done, yeah. They're even looking the exact same way too. The light source is over the right shoulder. They're both looking screen right. Like, dude, like that was not done by accident. It was not done by accident.
That's they're giving the hint, right? Even if he joins up with that officer and help her with his intelligence of tracking them down, and I know who this Andor is, he's going to redeem whether he lives or dies, just like Andor and the rest of them in Rogue One, because Andor got redeemed, right? He was not such a nice guy in that movie, ends up saving, getting the plans off to save the galaxy, and ends up dying on the beach after redeeming.
If you're watching this podcast, you heard it here first. Steve making a bold linkage there, and I'm impressed, Steve. I'm impressed. Looking forward to episode 6.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone that tuned in. Hopefully you'll chat next time with us. I see you there, and we look forward to the next episode.
Yes.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Steve.